Just like this. The only difference between it was the one I had, the one my grandfather had was brown.
So this is the piano that found its way into your basement.
This what got me off the percussion.
It's
This
just
is
like
way,
this.
This is the way my parents got me, or maybe this is the way they got to have some peace in the house. Because I was banging on drums, timbales, roll times all day, all night. So when they brought this in, yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, I was looking at the turntables.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that me being a music producer, you being a DJ,
Mm-hmm.
we both had to go through those transitions.
Oh yeah.
With technology.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, now I was glad to get away from the reel-to-reels.
Yeah, splicing them, man.
Splicing those, but then when you got the ADAS and DAT machine, we had hardware in the studio. I mean, we had racks and racks and racks of equipment, and it gave a great sound. But then here comes the software era.
Mm-hmm.
The hands-on in a different way, and I fought. It took me a while to transition into all the new technology, Pro Tools, and looking at the computer for all of your sounds and stuff like that, versus pulling up this rig or that rig or this equipment, turning this on and plug and play, and then you just I fought the system for a little while.
Yeah.
And then it was a learning curve. It was a learning curve to know where stuff is. I knew where everything was with my rigs and all that kind of stuff, but then now I'm learning like the software thing and how to, and the sounds, it wasn't, initially when it turned into software and you went away from the racks of equipment, the sound was thin. The digital sound was thin, and it didn't give you that warmness that you were used to, and then eventually the sound caught up, but I was still kind of like trying to be in the ice age, and so that transition was tough. Did you find it, did you fight the transition of going from your techniques and the hands-on to the Seratos and how was that transition? Was it a long transition for you?
No, because I just like gadgets.
Okay.
Right. So
Yeah.
I think the challenge for me was I didn't know what was out there.
Gotcha.
So like these are CDJs.
Right.
And I didn't even know what CDJs were when they were out until I knew.
Right.
So I wasn't the kind of DJ that anytime something new came out, I knew about it.
Right.
Somebody would just say, "Yo, man, you ever heard of CDJ?" I'm like, "No, what's that?" That's what all of the DJs are DJing on. I'm like, "Really? Well, let me go and learn what these CDJs are." I had plenty of CDs.
Right.
You know what I mean? So then I started learning how to DJ on this, but it didn't feel the same. This ain't a turntable.
No.
When I get on this,
The weight, the feel, resistance is different, right?
So I did the best I could, and I wanted to do better, and I learned, like, these are hot cues, right?
Okay.
So I learned how to use these hot cues, but now, these other things that they have now, the drops and everything else, with the pads, that's fun. But the thing is, I learned how to do it. But the other thing is, in my professional capacity of work, I didn't always have the time to put into it.
Right.
I was in school, I was doing leadership stuff, you know what I mean? So there'd be months and months and months that go by that I didn't DJ.
Right.
Because I'm busy doing my other job.
Right.
And so, but then when Serato came out, I was DJing, and a friend of mine, she was like, "You ever heard of Serato?" I'm like, "No." She said, "Well, that's what all of the DJs are using." I'm like, "Well, I got all these records. I never heard of Serato." So I finally get Serato and put it on there, and then I'm like, okay, so now I got to do the digital. But it automatically took my iTunes and put it in the file.
Put it in there, yeah.
So then I was able to DJ on both Serato and Wax because it has a through button.
Yeah.
So I can DJ on everything now.
You be able to combine the
Right. And so then I was able to start downloading music, and again, certain things I didn't know. And once I knew, then I just embraced it. I just recently learned how you can take something from YouTube and turn it into an MP3. I didn't know how to do that.
Convert it.
Yeah, I mean, it's your world, right? But But there was this one song that I really wanted, and for a couple of years, you know, and I didn't know how to do it for a couple of years, and then finally, my son showed me how to do it, and I was like, wow, that's easy.
Right.
And I'm thinking,
it's like that, right?
So now, if I come across a song, I'm like, all right, I want that song.
Right.
You know, and then one of my family members, we had a family reunion and we recorded this video, and the song is called Gathering the Tools, and we love this song. So I took that and put it on MP3, so now I can play that, you know, and so now they have other types of technology that are out now where the turntables don't even have a tone arm. Because now on Serato, you got all these cue points.
Okay.
So, you know, you just hit a cue point and it's there, just like on my controller. So I have a controller over there.
Okay.
And that's what everybody's using now for the most part. And that's a Den, and that's a significant controller. You know, that's kind of industry standard. So you can take a thumb drive and put it into that. You don't even need all the other stuff, a laptop, and it'll read it just like, because it's built in Serato.
Gotcha.
So I play with that. But then there's this new toy that I want to get.
What is that?
So it's made by a company called Rain.
Okay.
And it looks like Technique turntables, but it's called MK2. And they look just like Technique turntables, but there is no tone arm, no none of that. And the needles don't jump, you know. So and then the mixer is like one of these. I mean, it's got everything for all of the drops and the pads and the cue points and everything else. So I embrace it because it just allows me to do more stuff. Remember when we used to do the pause button mix, right? You got to let it play time to you know, just to make something go bam, 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 bam. All right, so these pads, you know, I'm playing music now. I'm a percussionist with different sounds, and so I know how to do that. But I never had the ability to do it as a DJ.
Gotcha. I got you.
And so now the cool thing is, every now and then I will play all of these at the same time.
Really?
I go back and forth. So I'll get on here and play CDs. Then I'll get on here and play vinyl. Then I'll get on the controller and mix to the vinyl. And then get on the other turntables with the Serato and mix to the controller or the vinyl. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I'll be going back and forth and just...
That's crazy.
In my world.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And see, it's funny, like, you know, I like my gadgets and my toys too, but if you would have set me free in here and let me loose, I would probably be intimidated and not know where to start with the stuff these days, because, like I said, I messed, you know, when I was coming up, messing with the techniques a little bit, but it's like everything has progressed so much in the world of DJ, what you can do now. But with that, now I don't want to get you in trouble.
Oh, you interviewing me now?
Because it's because our worlds are very similar.
That's great.
Right? Do you feel these new DJs get to cheat the game, or do you feel it's just technology going forward? Right? Because because here's the difference. You came along with DJing when DJing first started. So it's not like you're in the middle of the era just starting. Like, for me, music was always around. They were already recording on reel-to-reels, this and that, and maybe, you know, doing some things. So when I came in the game, I imagine some of the producers or people that were before me, especially guys in 60s, 70s, and 80s, they would probably look at me like, well, I wish I had all that. Y'all get to cheat, you know, synthesize. We didn't have to call a whole bunch of people in to get music done.
Right.
Or a vocalist could do their own backgrounds now, mix everything, or tune things. You didn't have to worry about a perfect tape. And so, you know, some of those older producers, you know, when guys like me were coming along, they would look at us like, but you can't do what we did back in the day. And to some degree, that might have been true, depending if you were a musician. But when I was coming up, you still had to be a musician to be a producer. And now, with music, a lot of these guys that are doing what they call music production now, they're not musicians. They're not. You know, people might love it or hate it. To me, it doesn't make a difference. If you make a hit song, you make a hit song.
Right.
So I'm not taking that away from them. But I think a lot of them, because it's so easy, it doesn't make them appreciate the history of things. And because it's so easy, it doesn't make them study to make themselves even bigger and better. Meaning these guys now that do a lot of production, they're just taking little loops and they're piecing it together. They're not touching anything. They're not programming the drums. They're not, you know, some of them are playing the drums, but, you know, we had to learn the different instruments, and it helped us because even if we were using synthesizers, it helped us know the movement of what that sound.
I remember when voices,
Yeah.
I first heard the term voices on keyboards.
Right.
Yeah, and that was when MIDI first came out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because an artist asked me to come over his house. He said, Reggie, you know how to hook up everything. So I need you to hook up my MIDI. I'm like, I don't know what the hell MIDI is, but I'll figure it out.
Right.
And then he's like, okay, I can do this voice, which was a key, you know, a violin voice or a drum voice. So I'm like, oh, so I know what you mean by that, being able to relate it. But in terms of new school DJs or, you know, the appreciation, you know, I'm kind of mixed with it. For instance, you and I didn't grow up riding a horse to work.
Right. Yep.
We didn't necessarily grow up unless we went to the, you know, families in North Carolina, you know, getting water from the well just to fill up a tub. Yeah, outhouses. So, you know, my grandfather had all that. So, you know, so should they tell me, well, you didn't have all of this, so, you know, you don't know. I appreciate being able to drive as opposed to riding a horse.
Absolutely.
I appreciate being able to turn the faucet and getting hot water.
Absolutely.
As opposed to going down to the creek and getting the bucket and filling up until it's boiled up and then use it. So I appreciate that. So with these DJs, it's kind of like I didn't grow up with a computer, right? I mean, I remember when digital watches first came out. So, so they don't know what they don't know, but because they are so much smarter than we are, and they picked up on things from a technological perspective, they're able to do things that I can't do.
And it's just natural to them.
It's natural for them.
Natural to
so
them.
now I find myself looking over their shoulder, saying, "Show me how to do that."
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I'm glad you said it, because that's where I was going. The appreciation should be both sides.
So now,
and a lot of times,
I mean, it's easy to say it should be, but it all depends on what they want.
right?
Maybe they just don't give a shit. You
They
know
might
what I
not.
mean?
They might not.
And they just want to do their thing. And we were probably like that back in the day. For instance, you know, when I was growing up, you never touched a record with your fingers.
Gotcha.
You held it like that on the outside, you know, and you cleaned it before you put it back in. You turned the paper, you slide it in, you know. So when when that culture saw me touch a record, they was like, "What are you doing?" You know, I grabbed their record.
Taboo, right?
Yeah, I put a fingerprint on it. You know what I mean? So I think it's just a transition of what it is that they had at the time. Now I will say there's probably some of those DJs who do appreciate and they put the work in. I was watching a study on Technique turntables, the whole history of Technique turntables. This guy couldn't have been but 30, you know, young 30s, late 20s, early 30s, and he ran down. He may have been reading, but he knew it. You know what I mean? A lot of stuff he just knew, and he broke it down. I'm thinking, this dude knew this better than I did.
Right.
You know what I mean?
All the way in.
And he's used a lot of them. And so, you know, there are people who, just like any historian, appreciate the origin of something, and then they go ahead and immerse themselves into learning about it. Not everybody's going to do that. I mean, we don't even know Black history as much as you know, we probably should.
Absolutely.
You know, and then you get a 15-year-old that know more about Black history than we do. You know, looking at us like, I mean, you was in the 60s, Reggie. How come you don't know? I just don't know. You know? But thanks for telling me. And so, I just think that it's just the way it is. Now, I will say this. They making money.
Making money.
Man, them EDM DJs, millions.
That's a whole new world.
Millions.
They have their own islands for parties. You know, they just, my god brother, and he was big into music, and he had went into the military, and I guess somewhere along with his time in the military, he went over to Europe and was in Italy and stuff like that. So when he got out of the military, I remember him calling me saying, "Hey, Breeze, I'm going to Italy." And I'm like, okay, you getting out of the military, you got out of the Air Force now, you're going to go to Italy.
Right.
And I'm thinking, I'll see you in a couple months. He was like, no, I'm staying in Italy. So he moved to Italy. And now, you know, this guy that grew up in the same hood as me, he speaks fluent Italian. He was there for 20-some years before he moved back to New York. Him and his wife, married an Italian woman and everything. Saying all of that to say is like with the music out there and him getting into all the music and stuff like that, it's just wild how the world's it all comes together at the end of the day, you know. And he would let me. He became big because he knew some of the DJs here. So he would get a heads up on what's coming or what's hot, and he would take it to the clubs. And he became this go-in-between dude, real popular in the clubs for DJ. Because they're like, what else can you get me before everybody else gets it? And but like you said, these guys are making money now. And I remember he told me, he said, "Hey, B, we should go." And I don't even know the name of this place. He said, "We should go to this place. It's somewhere out in some island or whatever. It's a small island." And I was like, "Well, what is that?" He was like, "All the hottest EDM DJs go there and they perform. You can go there for like 3 or 4 days. It's constant parties." And that's when I realized, and I remember he showed me this video clip, and I'm looking at it.
A sea of people.
And this guy's on this elevator in the air, and he got these lights, and it's an island, it's a small island. And they had, I don't know what they were partying like some type of bubble bath type stuff.
Right.
And then they had some mist going on with smoke. And I'm looking at this whole island party.
That's fun.
And I'm like, how much is this dude getting paid to do this show?
$50 million a year.
Getting paid, man.
Yeah, and so as an old school DJ who, you know, I'm not making any of that kind of money. You know, I do think about how we came up and we just didn't have access or exposure. And now they have access and exposure. And, you know, shoot, I wish I could be that. You know, I mean, I saw Shaquille O'Neal on his show. He was DJ EDM. I'm like, go ahead, man. Go ahead, get it in. But I'm thinking, let me get up there. You know, I'll show you something. But you know, sometimes it's the luck of the draw, right? You never know. But I do appreciate the fact that they've taken it to that level. It's come a long way since Grandmaster Flash. You know, and Jazzy Jeff is still relevant in the game. And who knows where it'll be 10 years from now. You know, remember the first Star Wars and they were in that club? You know, and that was Future, right?
That was futuristic to us. It was, right.
And so, who knows where this game is going to be 10, 20 years from now. But I will say this, you know, DJs are here to stay.
Oh, yeah. They're not going nowhere.
No, and it's an industry now, and a culture that, you know, a person can, you know, decide, I'm gonna do this for a living. You know, and I'm appreciating the female DJs now.
Oh man, they making money.
Yeah, you know, they couldn't do it back in the day because if you didn't have a crew that could fight and protect your equipment and everything else, you know, then you're not gonna be a DJ, let alone be a female DJ out there, because they will steal your stuff too.
Carrying all the equipment.
So now they just show up with a laptop.
Some of these females is using being a female to their advantage for the party. You know?
Whatever works.
Yeah, and I'm not mad at them, man.
It's a business.
This one, I remember seeing this one girl start. She was dating an artist I was producing, and I remember when she said, "I think I want to start DJing." And I wasn't taking it serious at first, right?
Right.
Attractive young lady and all the case. So she started DJing, getting little stuff, and she took it serious, man. But she used her angles, man. Next thing I know, she was DJing down Vegas, getting called to Vegas every 6 months to do these big shows, and she goes all over these different places. And I'll say this: I think I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I think DJs within the next 15 to 20 years, might even be your new producers. They because they embody production, getting the party started, the whole nine.
Do it all.
And I think you're going to see a lot more DJs' names where they feature artists, similar to how DJ Khaled and Clue are doing it.
Right.
But to another level, I think you're gonna start seeing the DJs do it because
maybe I'll do it.
Go for it. Why not?
Maybe I'll do
The
it.
technology is very similar to production.
Right.
You know, so you have a kind of end in there because it's all computers.
Right.
And you're getting familiar with the same software. But I really, and these DJs have a pulse of the people. So I can see DJs being a very, very big influential part of the music industry, if not even being even more so a part of the production in the future.
Well, there you have it.
You know?
Breeze has prophesied that
10 years.
DJs 10 years from now, it's 2020. So in 2030, we're gonna talk about this. Y'all can flash back to this. This will be historic document by then. And the DJs will be out there. You know, DJ Khaled. You know, he'll be one of those type that, you know, he'll be like the old school dude. You know what I mean? The Godfather of DJ producers. Yeah, everybody be coming to him saying, "Yo, man, you know." Yeah. But then the new school DJ producers may just say, "All right, you know, DJ Khaled, let me show you how this works." You know?
And that's the beauty of it. And if Khaled is smart, he'll learn from the new ones. That's what kept me around, is that a lot of producers that started off in my era, they stay stuck in their ways. Well, technology is going to change. So you can try to force these young kids to keep doing 90s music.
Right.
Or you can start learning how to use the 808s and the hi-hats and how they're doing production now. And me, I'm that guy that you bring some new equipment in there, and I want to see that kid use it.
Right.
I have the part of being able to play and do all the production. I have everything up to date, but I'm smart enough to know if I want to be around as a producer and be relevant, because it's a young man's world. I mean, it's a young man's world as far as the artists. The artists are going to be the young ones, right? And so,
or young woman,
or young. That's why I say young ones. Young, I say young man. The young ones are going to be the ones that are the artists.
That's true.
And so, if I want them to come and still say, "Yo, I want a beat or a production by Breeze," Breeze has to have an ear for how they're using the 808s and the hi-hats and all that. And you know, that's one of the things that, you know, kept me around, where it was you know, you keep just ascending
your trajectory,
versus having this plateau and then disappearing. And so I love being around the young people, man. They keep me young.
So about how many other producers have you mentored, trained, produced?
Oh, man, a lot.
Yeah.
I love doing it though. A lot. I love, you know, some of them that came in the door that didn't know anything, didn't have any equipment, or some of them came to me and they might have started on GarageBand and said, "Listen to this," and I would take time to critique them, because I remember when I was trying to get in the door, and how hard it was for me. It was a lot harder back then to get in the door, because you didn't have studios everywhere. So if you was going to be a quad, there was a lot of people that wanted to work at quad, or if you was going to be at, you know, Hit Factory or this place or Chunking, whatever. They weren't opening their doors to everybody, so you had to know somebody that could get you in there, so you can see how the SSL elbow worked, or understand how to use your compressors and all that. Well, nowadays, you know, with software, everybody thinks they can be a producer, everybody thinks they can be, but if you want to learn it, you know what I'm saying, you have to be around somebody to mentor you and teach you. And like you said, these guys, man, they take it and run. Because they understand all this digital stuff. You know, so.
Well, I know Breeze. So, you know, I can get in the door.
You good.
I know how to knock and get in there.
We're going to knock in and walk in together and both learn some stuff.
Hey.
So, yeah, that's the beauty of it, man. Learn from these young people. They'll keep you young and relevant. But the beauty that you also have is that you also have what was before. And so as these guys are keeping me young and relevant, a lot of them don't know how to play music. So I still have an upper hand in some senses, because if you come to me and say you want a slow song or whatever the case, I can play it. I don't have to depend on the computer to give it to me. And that's what you try to teach the young people. You know, hey, add this to it, because that'll help you financially be able to make more money. You don't want to only be able to do this. If Beyonce comes to you and says, I need a slow song, and the only thing that you worked on is up tempos, she might not need that day. You got to be able to get on that equipment and create. And create. And so that's what I challenge them with. The ones that come on my door, but at the same time, man, I keep my ear to the pavement to see what they're doing. To incorporate
I'm learning from them.
Yeah.
They know a lot about this technology.
Yeah.
The millennials, I tell people, if you're in my age group and you don't have at least a few millennials that you can call,
You better. Yeah,
you know,
right,
you're gonna be behind the times.
Right,
you know, because they are quick.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, brother. Is there anything else you want to say to your people?
Nah, I'm good, man. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this walk through music lane, memory lane, to the present and to the future, man. Hopefully, like, check back over us in 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Let's see if the prediction is right.
Yep.
But no, I enjoyed it, man.
Well, I appreciate
Much
it.
success to the show. Great show.
So, again, this concludes Turning the Turntables with Breeze, the producer extraordinaire. Check him out. I mean, you know, he didn't want to list a whole lot of things out there, but he's definitely been around, historic figure and producer, has made a lot of music.
Yeah.
I mean, you're listening to music now, and you never know. You know, you probably listening to some of the music that he made. So definitely check him out. So thank you, brother.
All right.